Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to The Obstacle, the show where I, your host Ericson, just try to throw red pills into the mouth of our co-host, Louis J. Michael, and he catches them and spits them right back in my eye. Are we live now?
Oh, we are live, and I was just popping the chat over there for us. Hey, everybody, I am Lou Michael. I'm the resident jackass of Salsa Parlor. And
I'm the visiting jackass.
Yeah, and today we see if I can keep Ericson in the lines.
I mean, this is honestly, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to keep me in the lines this time, because this topic is actually one I'm not exceptionally educated on. I
don't know. This is a fun start to a podcast. I don't know that I am either.
Well, how do we get onto this topic?
Because every time
money and government, because
literally every issue we talk about comes to that, though. The last 3 episodes we've done on The Obstacle, at some point we talk about how a two-party system's stupid, and then everybody recognizes now that it's not even a two-party system. It's literally money.
I guess so. If we're talking about cronyism and the establishment, which I have I don't know as much about the financial aspects of it. I don't have the raw numbers, but yeah, at the end of the day, my biggest problem is what I try to have a conversation with people about all the time, both left and right actually, is that I don't really have a particular side that I take, and I don't think it's healthy. If anything, I'm against both of the sides.
Wait. On left and right, you don't take a side? Because I'll tell you right now, outside looking in, people peg you right all the time.
People on the right peg me left.
Really?
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you hanging out that's right? I
don't want to say their names because they specifically have gotten off of Facebook just to get out of people's
fair enough, but that seems like a handful, man.
There's my point, is that you're talking about from your perspective, which you would, I guess, consider yourself to be left then, right?
No, I'm a moderate borderline libertarian idiot, but no, I am
libertarian.
Okay.
What about me is not libertarian? What about me is right?
I would say it's the social aspects you have, where it comes up in our chat a lot too, man. Where it's just who's this Ben Shapiro guy?
But what comes up in my chat that comes off as politically right?
Your chat, or what comes up in our chat about you?
Oh, I don't really care what they say. They're all trying to be funny and trying to play around. And I've gotten the Ben Shapiro thing before a bunch. But what about? I'm talking about you looking in. What about my political? What about my social attitude is right?
Lately?
Besides the fact that I think we should go back to not having women vote and having blacks only be the person.
Right. Other than that stuff.
Besides the fact. I think we have to close the border.
Other than the fact that you're a thin blue line guy till you die, it's incredible how amazing you think the police are doing. See, what's good is I can start with a joke and then you'll take it in and I'll be this.
Dude, I will say, because I didn't know about these until I came over to the East Coast, those flags are dope. Those are the dopest looking flags.
This is what I'm talking about.
It's hard not to want to
the
join
thin blue
that
line
side.
Flag
you know what I'm talking about?
It's hilarious that it's okay. Here's something that
what's so funny too is the first time I saw it, I was like, it's funny how it's you can just tell sometimes. You're like, that's not something I'm supposed to agree with.
The thin blue lion flag?
I still flag that's pretty dope. I don't feel like that's in support of Black Lives Matter.
But yeah, it's a little weird because okay, first of all, when it comes to the American flag, the only time it's supposed to be colors changed are for camouflage purposes within actual service duty for military. Is
that written somewhere?
What?
I like
that. It's within the standards of the U.S. No, the flag's not in the Constitution.
And we shall never change the flag's colors unless trying to hide from the British.
Change old stars and glory. No, there's an actual book of how to respect the flag, and it says one of the only things that you can mute or change the colors to. Yeah, it's the New Testament, by the way, Jew. But that doesn't come up a lot. We need to bring that up more.
And I'm the right-leaning one.
This guy's here.
Yeah, that doesn't come up a lot.
Ericson, what should I do with my money? Okay, so what's crazy is back when the hippies were being hippies in the 60s, conservatives at the time gave them shit for wearing American flag apparel. You're not supposed to turn the flag into shirts or fucking Daisy Dukes and shit like that. I know. Now you go to a fucking Trump rally and you're like, Jesus Christ, did you guys stitch these out of flags?
Entire Kirigamis.
Right, exactly. So it's there's a whole code to how to respect the flag, and it's the people that are yelling respect the flag are at the same time. I'm yeah, you realize you have discolored flags for the point of profit alone, right? Like, and so when I see the thin blue line flag or any of those, I'm like, okay, like, does it look cool? Yeah, because you're taking a flag that is been established.
I just always thought the American flag, since the day I was born, I thought it was an ugly looking flag.
Really?
Oh my god!
Oh, maybe
the colors don't blend well together.
Red, white, and blue.
It's asymmetrical in a way. Yeah, that seems like a child.
It fucking I'll give you that.
When they sit you down and they explain the meaning of it, the 50 stars.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that is very poetic.
But have you scrolled through the emoji flags? And maybe it's just I'm biased.
It's the worst of the bunch.
No, I'm just saying when you go through it, it's not the worst of the bunch. But you also go, there it is. It's the most American thing you can do is like the American flag, very much like America blasts open the door. It's like, what's up, motherfucker?
You're absolutely right. America's very much like, I'm just going to be me.
Yeah, it's just peacocking.
The rest of the flags are like, we're either going to put a symbol in the middle or we're going to have a symmetrical
shape. Like Germany's flag, not the old one, this current one, is very like, you know, it's got the black because they're like, we did a lot of bad shit back in the day. It's got the yellow because they're like, we can be fun, and then the red for all the blood.
I will always take the American flag over any of the bullshit 3-color block flags.
What's your favorite flag? We'll get into money and government here in a second.
The British flag was my favorite.
Oh, you Union Jack, bitch.
Like, I just was like, that's what the American... I remember when I saw it, I was like, was that the original? Was that the prototype?
Well, doesn't it look proper? It's got the right color scheme.
Definitely live, bud.
Is this live or am I like? No, you're here, bud. Thanks for tuning in, bud. Appreciate it, bud.
No, but the first time I saw the British flag, I was like,
Sean's in here too.
I thought that was the prototype for the American flag, and I was like,
I mean, it was.
Kind of was.
Yeah, what are you talking about? But the American flag.
That's all we did. We pretend like the red means the blood of people, the white means this.
Hang on, what's the white mean?
For the superior race, I suppose. I don't know.
Oh yeah, see, with jokes like that too.
Well, because I'm making fun of the fact that yes, there is a certain amount of superiorism in Republican. I mean, in
there you go, Freudian slip.
What is that?
There's a certain superior in republicanism.
Well, you know, that's the model now. I don't agree with it, but still,
white supremacy and republicanism.
I think white supremacists have adopted republicanism.
I can't remember if you and I was last week. Did we talk on air about this? I can't remember, but it was like, yeah, white supremacists have landed in the camp of republicanism.
Yeah, I know, and that led to a very a good epiphany for me about like one of the things I have a big problem with, which we'll get wrapped up into it. We talk about in this conversation. But yeah, this because one bad group supports a larger movement does not make that larger movement necessarily bad. Or that group bad.
Yeah, I was going to say we talked about that, but it's because whether or not you go
because then it's all a matter of just making because that's kind of like what both sides going back to the bigger picture. Both sides do this,
right?
And I'll go as far as back to the moment when it really started like gaining speed. And it wasn't Republicans or Democrats doing it. It was the establishment. Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street, I think we can all pretty much agree, wasn't really politically like aligned with this particular.
When did that start?
Well, it was a result of the housing crash.
Okay.
People had lost their jobs and their houses and their money. But meanwhile, we're watching the news and realizing that all these banks and corporations that were pretty much complicit and the reason for it all happening.
Seems like 2011, by the way, is when it started.
The movement started.
Yeah.
So I guess that's 3 years fallout. Basically, so many people had lost their jobs. So many people were homeless. So many people were scrounging to get by.
Yeah.
Probably the last of the people who were going to be like truly devastated from that financial impact. You know, the people who had made savings, but just enough to get by, but never really got back on track.
Right.
Everyone was destitute, but meanwhile, these corporations, we'd already had news.
They got the bailouts. Yeah.
Not only bailouts, but like. They took those bailouts and went on vacation and like bought themselves bigger houses and scooped up all the houses that they had sold with trumped up loans to people.
I think it's gonna happen again.
Well, it will. We'll reach a point where all the devastation and financial impact of COVID will hit everybody again.
In the chat, we got a good point as well because we'll get to it. But these days, there's a big difference between identifying as a Republican or a conservative.
I agree.
Yeah?
No, I agree. And
really?
I would say Republican is probably the more damning one.
Really? I don't think so.
I guess that's the problem.
I don't think so.
But that's the thing. That's not big. That's part of the whole thing. we don't even agree on what these political labels even mean.
Well, no, because republicanism would go into the governing side of like Republican style of government.
That's what. Okay, yeah.
Whereas conservative would also take on conservative social ideologies.
Well, conservatism, from what I've heard from conservatives, is that they're just
were they Republicans or conservatives?
The conservatives.
Okay,
conservatives. They're not, and they don't. I don't think they even identify as Republicans because I've been listening to British conservatives as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they even say the whole idea of a conservatist is to conserve that which is working and good. Like make sure you hold on to the things that people would argue
right.
it's tradition. Yep. But what they're arguing is like, no, if something's not broken, don't fix it because it's functioning, and and the whole point of conservatism is to find the things that are working, keep those, and then move on and try new things.
Okay.
Whereas, I mean, I guess their argument is liberal ideology, or is more like, or progressive ideology is like, yeah, it works, but we could probably do better.
Okay. I would 100% be like, yeah, I get that.
And my attitude, this is the thing, like my attitude with political parties in general is, I think they all come from a good place. I don't think, I mean, first of all, people were everyone, all of them were racist back in the day.
I was gonna say, hang on now. We could unpack that a lot more.
Well, just that, like, back before we even had the Civil War, we had Democrats and Republicans,
right?
And they weren't talking about
none
of them had.
Are you talking specifically American style? Because when you're like, I was like, that's why I was like, we could unpack that.
Okay,
for the sake of our conversation today, let's keep it on America.
Sure. Yeah,
so
yes. Talk about American politics.
Yep. Okay,
which is the system that I have a problem with.
Yep.
Although that being said, the American government system, I think, ideologically, the way it was built initially is great.
We got some fun stuff in the chat here. We got Yondo, we got Sean Murray, we got Bud Bakar. Thank you for
Yondo. Ericson's back in Eli.
Yeah, there it is.
Yell, East Lansing. Yell.
But okay, so you're talking about conservatism.
All I'm saying is, when it comes to political parties, at least the way they began in America, I don't think any of them were created with any sort of like evil or pure agenda. I think they're I think they basically, our founding fathers have created a very strong constitution and a strong country, and the parties had different attitudes about what was the best way to go about making this country better.
Right.
I don't think the Republican Party even the Democratic Party I don't think existed at that point. I think it was the Republicans and the Whigs. I don't remember exactly what the original.
So you had Whigs and Tories, and then eventually you had Federalists.
Right. So it's like these things are, and they all come from a different ideology of how to run a government and what its government should be related to people.
No matter what you call it, it did come from either like a liberal sensibility or, well, there's classic liberalism, progressivism. So you know how we have Republicans and conservatives?
Right.
Now I think you have Democrats and then liberals. But then I would say even one step further. So you have Black Suit Spider-Man, which is your Democrat. And I'm not damning Democrats
I like
here,
where we're going with this.
All right, so it's Black Suit Spider-Man.
They think they're doing well, but they're really just full of poison. Okay.
Yeah, maybe. My nerd brain was like, I need a three-tier group here. Well, I'm Captain America, so it doesn't even matter, you fucking pussies. And I just had a shiver down my spine where God was like, no, you're not. I'm like, you're right, I'm not. I'm going to hell. But anyways, Black Suit Spider-Man, Democrat.
Yeah.
Liberal, Venom. Progressive, fucking Carnage. When people are like,
sure.
But here's the thing. Now, what's hilarious is a progressive would be like, why did you call me fucking Carnage? And I'm like, if you get angry at that example, it'd be like, you get what I'm saying. I could go the other way with it if you want, but I don't have a three-tier hierarchy of evolutionary of good superheroes.
What do you mean, for like the conservative side?
No, I was just gonna say like another three-tier. I'm trying to think like I don't know, fucking Iron Man,
classic Superman, Black Suit Superman.
Yeah, this is
Robo Superman.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. When it comes to the three-tier of one being, in the superhero metaphoric example, I can only think of the symbiotes and Spider-Man, Venom.
I get the metaphor. That works.
Fair enough.
All right, because all in a way the same person, the same origin,
right?
Different kind of.
Well, it's just more intense. Right. So it's like Black Suit Spider-Man's kind of a dick, but it's still Spidey.
Right.
And then it's like Venom, you're like, okay, this is like a bad guy, but every now and again you can get down with the point he's making. Carnage, you're like, you're fucking insane and you're not making any points. So I'll go.
Just want to see the world bleed.
Right, and I'll go the other way with Republicans. You have Republicans, Black Suit Spidey. Then I would say you have conservatives, which is fucking Venom, and then you have your actual fucking supremacists, like white supremacists and racists, whereas Carnage.
And here's the thing, I will agree with you on that. Like, that's the thing. Like, you're right. Like if you're looking at a white supremacist, they're probably going to fall into that camp, and that's one of the things that
Elena's in the house. Hello.
Yo, what's up, Elena? And that's one of the things that like the other side uses in this kind of drama to help say like this is a bad group. It's like, do you want to be on a group that some people are like are supremacists? It's like, well, no, I don't agree with them, but like at the same time, like they're going to pick whatever side they think is going to best serve.
So getting into it, because we haven't even got to the money part, but I think we're getting into a good
just so I can lay out my thing, because if this is all coming back from where it comes back from, it's not just money. Obviously, money is what fuels the world and fuels people's greed. But my problem is that like at the end of the day, I just have a problem with like the way there's this kind of like political circus that really distracts the people from actual change,
right?
As opposed to, and instead gets us to fight each other, whether it's based on our political linings,
right,
or now even our race and our sexual preferences.
I would say that's where if you recognize that, then you're immediately put in the camp of moderate and called a fucking idiot, because moderates will never.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I've always said I was I used to say I was always a centrist, and people hated me. Everyone hated me.
I don't get that. Oh well, no, I do get that, but it's like we can
pick a side.
We can get into why centrists are deemed idiotic in a moment here. But the point I wanted to get to before, because we were talking about the different tiers of each side, I think we're at a precipice of the two-party system shattering here pretty soon. I don't know if it's going to happen, but with like Trump and the Trump-style Republicans, and then some classic-style Republicans that are like, thank God he's gone, but I'm like, you are the minority of Republicans right now. And then the Democratic side, here's something, an example of the two sides. I've always thought of Republicanism or the way the Republicans run their party like Roman legions, where it's like you might not agree with it, but you're like, that's our fucking Caesar, everybody get in line, and we're making our phalanxes and turtles.
I feel like the liberals are trying to go that direction.
My example being,
ones who all got behind
my example being
wanted Bernie.
See, here's the thing though. My example being is like the Republicans fall in line a little bit more stiff upper lip, and they're like, fuck it, like begrudgingly, this is our guy. Whereas the Democratic side always kind of struck me as like more of the Braveheart barbarian style, where they're like, you got tons of different tribes with different agendas and ideologies, but they're like, fuck it, we have one enemy we can all agree to hate right now, so we'll band together, but we have different styles of fighting. So it's just like a little bit more chaotic.
I kind of understand what you're saying.
I just think there's more, maybe this is my ignorance, but I feel like there's literally more diversity on the Democratic side of government. And I think you look at it is the
diversity of what?
Literal race, ethnicities, colors, ideologies.
There's a lot more black and Mexican people who are on the Republican side. They don't typically show up to the rallies in Alabama, for sure. But media doesn't highlight them.
I'm being anecdotal, because if nothing else, I would say the Democratic side of
Trump this year than last year than than the previous.
Right, but more so than voted for Biden.
I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think more blacks than ever might have voted for Trump, but not more than Biden.
Okay, but my point is it's still a growing population.
But, to finish my point being is, if nothing else, the Democratic side of government at least likes to paint themselves as that. Right. They're like, we are the diversity. I'm like, okay. So that might be why in my example, I'm like, that's why I think of them as such a collective, like, different diverse group.
Therein lies part of my point, is that like, you are making a lot of assumptions based off of like things that are presented to you through the media and through these parties.
OG Yando's picking it up. He's like, it's it's
south of the wall.
Yeah.
I mean that's he wants to. Okay, yeah, I guess.
I was like, is that lost on you?
No, I get it. So it's like now you're saying what you're saying, the Republicans, or are you saying Republicans are the White Walkers or the Mexicans?
No.
Which wall are we talking about here?
Okay, Mexicans. Come on, Erickson, you're a racist. You know Mexicans could never be White Walkers. All right, did we get it? We didn't. Okay. Wow, no pushback on racist there?
I'm just done at this point. The more I fight, the more... See, I've learned the more you... I've realized the more you fight it, the more it just becomes a possible thing that you are.
Fair enough. Well spoken, Uncle Ben. From Spider-Man.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, fuck.
You caught me on it.
I was like, hang on, Spider-Man. I was like, Spider-Man reference. But then nobody thought Spider-Man listening right now. They all went to the rice. They're like, you motherfucker. But no, okay. The Republicans being the Seven Kingdoms. I like how we're nerding out now, and then
I don't even know why
Democrats.
we're trying to create a good metaphor for the political thing. Because either way, the more we try to make metaphors, the more that kind of just, as far as I'm concerned, proves my point about how like this is theater. We're creating a fiction here. We're talking about politics as though they were comic book characters or HBO TV series, and that's over. And that's and the reason we do that is because it's attractive and it's an easier way for us to digest the stories that we tell ourselves to justify our own actions. And that's great on a day-to-day level, but like when you're talking about building society and trying to create a stable country and a civilization for people, you really got to try to detach yourself from good and evil and and like what do I want and who do I want to be, and more about like what is a system that outside of me will work really well.
Right. I mean, now you're going into like a Stoic style. Marcus Aurelius.
This is why you and I get along really well, and this is why we do this, because at the end of the day, we both realize that, we're selfish individuals who have our own desires, and that's always going to get in the way of us doing, what is best for not just man, but even our own selves at times.
Hang on, unpack that a little bit more. What do you mean?
Well, like, I would argue, with Stoicism, it's like your want and your needs and your desires are just feelings that get in your way of, doing what you have to do.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so it's
I agree with that.
And what you have to do, I would argue, and I don't know if this is exactly a Stoic principle, but it's a principle of mine. It's like you try to be a good citizen in your society. You want to try to be a benefit to. I think everyone wants to be a benefit to civilization, hopefully, in some way.
Yeah. Speaking in generalities, yeah.
At the very least, whether they truly want it or not, I think most people would say that.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of the argument of progressives, right? We're trying to make the world better for everyone.
I think that's everybody's. Okay, so like I would say that's
right
everybody's statement, but then there's the difference in how to do it
exactly.
And I mean,
right.
That's the classic argument for forever is everybody wants everybody to be good. It's just your version versus their version.
So going back to and I think politics has learned that they can harness, and both sides, like I said, they can harness this way that this predilection human beings have to want to talk in fairy tales rather than in concrete realities.
Yeah.
That they can get us to pit us against each other. And basically, instead of actually fighting amongst ideas and trying to figure out what's the best idea for us to keep moving forward, making it more about one group is trying to press the other group, and trying to stop this other group from being in control and making sure that some of us are slaves and some of us are elites. And I'm like, well, yes, perhaps, but if that is true, it's all of them. It's not. The right aren't trying to turn this country into a country of white supremacists and and bring back slavery. And the left aren't trying to censor every single person who doesn't think like them and who is transphobic and doesn't want to marry a gay person.
I was going to say small
They're
pushback.
both working together to make us under their control.
Right. Well, and small pushback, I would say the fringe groups on both sides definitely are. Like white supremacists.
Sure. And people have talked about this, about that shoehorn thing where it's just on both ends there are people who are so down with the cause, so to speak.
Right.
There are people on the right side who are white supremacists, lunatic, possible, I guess, Nazis who are
they are. They're neo-Nazis.
I mean, but I would argue that I would say if you go in larger, I think the larger portion of them who connect with those guys who call them Nazis wouldn't call themselves Nazis.
Probably
Proud Boys,
not,
maybe, whatever you want to say.
See, but that's okay. So Proud Boys, I think, is going to be one of those weird Venn diagrams where you have some dudes who are just fucking loser boys that want it, but then other dudes that's softcore neo-Nazis.
I'm putting the group of just people who think our people, usually white people, we should run this country, and basically they're trying to move us out. They're trying to turn us into new Jews. Those people,
who's trying to move us out?
The liberals.
Gotcha.
That party.
Gotcha.
And that includes Nazis. I agree.
Gotcha.
That's a very large party. And there's a large group of people who are the Republicans are trying to turn us into a fascist government. They want to eradicate every person who's not like them. They want to make everybody. They want to force us to learn Christianity and to all be straight, heterosexual cis people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, there's groups of people like that,
Yep.
and they will always be there.
Mm-hmm.
And your government is using the reality that they'll always be there to make you basically to make you galvanized
right.
in a way that you are fighting a battle that is, I mean, a battle of the mind, really. Because at the end of the day, it's like, I have not met a white supremacist, as far as I know, in the last, 10, 20 years. Like, I don't feel a threat for white supremacy on a day-to-day basis when I'm walking around. I don't feel like it's looming on it. And I also don't feel like there are people who are trying to go hunting trans people every day. I walk the streets. I'm never walking down the street being like, I hope I don't come off like a woman because then someone might kill me. They exist. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying it's not this. It's the way.
Well, you brought up a personal that you haven't, or are you saying royal you? Because when you're like, I haven't, I'm like, do you mean?
Well, the news will definitely do their job to publicize those moments. But even if you zoom out and say, how often am I hearing these stories on these levels? They're not even that. It's not even that much.
See, but if we're going the anecdotal examples though, it's like, dude, go the other way. Start doing some stuff around
statistics.
No, I'm talking about like anecdotally my own experiences. Like, dude, I've been to a lot of the places around this country where it's like nobody's looking, and it's like, okay, we can be who we want now. Like
what do you mean?
Like just white rural America. I'm not saying all of it, but a good amount of it that I've been to, even doing shows.
There's a difference, though, between being like, okay, now we can talk about how we don't like trans people,
right?
To, okay, now we can go out and kill one.
That's what I'm saying, though, is like, okay, first of all, that I would say is slippery slope, because it's like if you're in an environment where you can talk about like, hey, I'd say just being hate-filled or like, echo chambering, like I don't care for it. But here's the thing. We're getting kind of off topic. My point being is to say like, oh, it's being overly blown up. I'm like, I don't know, man. Because like to see what we're seeing on the news and then to see the rhetoric that you can literally find shit online where I'm like,
you can find all types of shit.
Right, but I mean like the groups online where it's like, oh, if I wanted to go find a group and like meet up with white supremacists, wouldn't be that hard. Like that's an actual
thing.
Be. Like and
it wouldn't be.
And then the other thing is,
wouldn't be that hard to find a group to meet up with Antifa members, or like trans radicalists.
But what's crazy to me about Antifa and the trans radicalists is that. What is that? Did you just make that up, or is that
people who believe that like trans people deserve like extra rights as opposed to cis people, or that believe that everyone's trans?
Right, but is this like a new emerging? Because like
there's definitely groups of people.
Okay, because like Antifa, I know there's some serious.
We'll use Antifa as an example.
Okay, well it's weird because Antifa started at first. It was like, okay, you just don't want fascists taking over. I'm like, okay, but now it seems like Antifa has become the fringe group people look at the left, where they're like, okay.
Like. I mean, they're basically
all right. Like, you got a little bit of a rhetoric tone to you. I don't unpack that more.
Terrorists. I don't mean terrorists in the way that we're like they're one of our enemies.
Yeah.
I mean like they terrorize.
Oh,
people. They terrorize the street. They terrorize their cities. They terrorize local businesses.
In the 9/11 terms of what terrorism...
I don't mean it that way. I don't mean that they're trying to knock down...
Post-9/11 terms of terrorism, where it's a political group using violence of action to get their...
Yeah, then they
I'm like, that's... I was going to say, by definition, sure. If there's violence of action used for political gain or influence, I'm like, yeah, that's one of the definitions of terrorism. I'll give you that. But my whole point being is when it emerged, it started as like a group where I'm like, oh, okay, like these people just don't want fucking fascists taking over. Right. But now I'm like, it's weird because
ISIS was a pastry shop initially.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. It was also the name of the agency in Archer.
It was actually.
It's like, dude, now I watch Archer. I
know. Season 4 to 6. I was like, man, this is hard.
Yeah, 2014 was a weird time.
I got to remind myself they're not making a joke. This was before we knew.
Right.
Was.
Did they ever become self-aware of it in the writers' room?
They must have, but I don't think so.
Okay.
They definitely. Well, after a while, you know what happened? Eventually, ISIS gets shut down. And I think that was their way of getting rid of the...
Gotcha. All right, fair enough. That makes sense. But going back to our point about terrorist groups, what's weird to me, and I think this is where it goes back to the Roman legion versus barbarian tribes example I was getting at is, your Roman legionnaires, pretty much like white Italian-looking dudes, right?
Okay.
Whereas the barbarian groups is like all different races and cultures. Okay. When I look at like neo-Nazis, white supremacists, KKK members, I'm like, okay, you've got Anglo white dudes in this. But when you look at Antifa or terrorist groups on the left, if you want to go with that.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's literally, I'm
It
I'm
sounds
lost.
like you're trying to make a move to
No.
say that the diversity of a group makes it less.
No, it's not at all. I'm perplexed by it because I'm like, it's,
What are you perplexed by? What's connecting them?
yeah, it's just the ideology at that point.
Well, they don't. They're kind of anarchists. They don't believe in like like a system. I mean, I haven't really looked into too much of their ideologies, but like at the
I would say
same time,
anarchists might be part of the group, but I don't think Antifa is an anarchy group.
so you're saying you don't know what it's people who
Well, it's the
believe.
blanket of anti-fascism, but
I mean,
then it's
I
like,
believe that a part of their belief system is that like colonialism created America,
Mm-hmm.
that our Constitution basically is a racist like doctrine.
yeah,
It's I mean they're like it's kind of like to the extent that like Biden says it's an idea. It is an idea in the sense that like they're connected by an idea.
yeah,
Which is all groups, even white supremacists.
For sure.
There's a physical component that makes it easy to tell if somebody is going to be in line with those ideas. But that's the thing, they're just people at the end of the day.
I guess that's what I find fascinating, if not scarier, is that it's like it's literally an ideology at that point where it's like,
That's
you know,
scarier?
I think so.
Why is it
I think
scarier?
so. Because it recruits from all causes. If your stormtrooper corps is just
Yeah,
humans,
I see what you're saying. It's more dangerous in that way because now it's like anybody could be a member.
well, maybe, but it's. I guess in a racist sense, if you look at white supremacists, you're like, well, there's one telltale sign. If it's like if it walks and talks like a Nazi and it's a white guy, I'm like, okay, there you go.
I guess I like a world where we don't have the ability to create like biases like that. Like you're saying it's scarier to Antifa's scarier because you can't easily pick them out.
Yeah, I was gonna say you
kind of
it's
can. They
hilarious.
usually have pink hair
For sure,
and piercings all over
but
their face
it's
and a bunch of like heroin scars on their cheeks.
Oh yeah,
they're a gruesome group.
Here's the thing. But again, we keep going to the middle of the road, both sides thing. I'm like, man,
but that's what we're talking about because, like I said, once again, like going back to the bigger thing is that like my point is a lot of stuff that people argue over, and it's mostly identity politics. Is like is this
oh, here we go.
Who are Antifa? Okay, thanks, Jamie. The anti-fascist protest movement. Now this is ADL, fighting hate for good. So that right there already sounds like propaganda if I ever read it.
There's no such thing as a bipartisan take on these guys.
Oh yeah, I bet there isn't. The anti-fascist protest movement known as Antifa gained new prominence in the United States after the white supremacists unite the which okay, I guess
Wait, what's funny? What's funny?
It's just like things you don't think you would have read as an adult when you were a kid in the 90s. The white supremacists unite the right rally. Like it's just like you think there would be white supremacist rallies when I was a kid.
Oh yeah,
in Charlottesville,
but see,
Virginia.
does that not scare you a little bit? That it was
No,
like
because
that out
I'm
in the
old.
open?
Because I'm old. No, because I'm old enough to. Because at the end of the day, people have a right
Yeah.
to argue what they believe in.
That's not what I'm worried about at all. It's just it was so brazen and braggadocious that like the KKK used to wear hoods and hide themselves, and it was like, if you were in, you knew. But what scared me about that rally the most
that
is like
particular thing I might have a problem with.
right. Well,
Hiding your face. Don't be a coward. Show who you are.
But that's what I'm saying is, a group so emboldened now that they brazenly didn't hide who they were, and they felt powerful and secure enough to go out there and spew their bullshit without even.
You're saying this in the context of like they're so clearly wrong that it's and they should be.
Are they not? I believe. Okay, I'll say without a doubt, I think they are.
That they should so be. I mean, they're clearly wrong to you. To them, they may. You're clearly wrong.
But here's the thing: I would
I don't
make
think there's a
arguments that they're
universal-
fundamentally wrong.
I don't agree with their logic. I don't
Yeah.
agree with their attitude.
Yeah.
But what we all agree with in this country is you have a right to argue your beliefs.
Sure, that's
There's
not
no
what I'm
concrete
saying. That's
scientific
not what
proof.
I'm saying.
What are you saying?
I'm saying fundamentally what they're saying is incorrect and fucking wrong.
What do you mean by fundamentally?
White supremacist white supremacist ideologies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the shit they were spewing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, wrong.
Yeah. To you, to them, it's right.
but I'm saying it's wrong across the board. Even
like
from
universally,
their
like universally,
it's
like
universally
on a cosmic
wrong.
level.
Yeah, I was gonna say
like there's a God,
absolutely,
and there's a universal
wrong.
rule that we're breaking the laws of the universe, that we're fighting against reality.
Yeah, cosmically wrong. They are Lovecraftianly incorrect.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
You're gonna push back
as a realist and a stoic. That's your belief
for sure,
and their belief is that you're wrong.
Right, and that's fine.
They might be, and trust me, I'd be blown away. Just as much I'll be blown away more than I'm blown away by you. And I'm not even that blown away by you. I was actually going to be blown away by them saying, like, God wants the white people.
What's that?
That God wants the white people to rule you. I'm sorry. That's just such a funny, like...
What God wants the whites? Can you imagine
that with Star Trek?
Like, dude, that's like, legitimately, though...
but that's what I'm saying. But my point is, like, it makes me laugh because, like,
that's not as funny as you think, because as neo-Nazis...
It is funny to me because it's a ludicrous idea.
Right, okay, I'll give you that. As a ridiculous idea, sure, but like, for them to actually say that and believe that, not that far out there, because, it's based in classic Nazism, where on pieces of gear.
But before Nazism existed, there was supposedly, I guess, a colonial idea that the white race is still superior, and that like it's our job to basically colonize the world and make it in the image of God.
Right, that's white superiority coming from
you and I, with our strong beliefs, would have been in the minority back then.
Yeah.
We would have been the crazies who it's like, I'm surprised they're so brazen. Would you have walked out back then with this belief?
I'll go philosophically into this where I'm like, it doesn't matter if you're in the minority or the majority, because we talk about the tyranny of the minority all the time, and then the tyranny of the majority as well. But I'm going to fundamental truths and humanism and behavioralism. Fundamental truths. Yeah.
When I hear that, I think you're saying universal truths.
Exactly.
Like cosmic and immutable truths.
Right. That's where, like, I mean, if you go into Stoicism, there is.
Right, and I'm saying that the equality of races is not one of them, in the sense that, like, objectively we're all human beings, right? So we're all just organisms of different variations, and therefore no one is more valuable than the other,
right?
But that only exists.
Stay on that.
I'm saying that exists on a natural level,
right?
In a societal level, though, everything's a construction,
right?
Right, like everything is a matter of rules and beliefs and ideas that we think should be law and should be truth,
right?
But it's all man-made. And
exactly. But go back to your first point there about, like, it being all man-made. Go one step back again, though, where it's like, you were talking about the equality and the humanism.
So you and I both think, like, that white supremacy is nuts, because at the end of the day we're all human beings,
right?
And they should understand that. That's an interesting argument you should make them. I'm not quite sure what they would say, but whatever the belief system they're running off of is like, it doesn't matter.
No, because I don't want to come off here as a nihilist either, because, like, you could slip into nihilism.
I'm talking about them. They think that, like, although we clearly are all human beings, I think their argument is that, like, well, we are the more evolved.
They think they're better human beings. Yes,
we're the more evolved race.
Right.
Yeah, we're the more like some races are more evolved than other, and that's all leaning on a societal level. And look, I guess my point is, going back to, like, the brazenness of them basically arguing, like, look, there was a court case a while ago. I think it was in the 70s, with the ACLU and I believe America, and they were fighting for the Nazis. They were saying that the Nazis have a right to protest in America, to be Nazis in America, because it is a belief.
Right.
And I believe they won.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a First Amendment trial.
And exactly. So, because at the end of the day, you have a right to believe what you want to believe.
Yeah.
I understand your disgust that that it's still not so universally, like, accepted that, like, white supremacy is ugly, that these people aren't afraid to go out. I guess I see it as, like, I'm glad that there's so few. I'd rather the people who believe in such ugly this goes back to so many things I bring up with people all the time, and it's a strong belief in me. I like honesty and I like truth, because I'd rather know someone hates me than to know they're secretly trying to sabotage me.
Sure.
Knowing where people stand is a way better way, I think, of making progress, and also basically taking care of oneself, than living in some sort of, like, political game where people are playing roles that they need to know to play in order to survive and get by.
Right, but
those white
you're
supremacists
taking...
would probably exist no matter what. Do you really think there's gonna be a point where we completely absolve white
No,
supremacy?
not
in
at
the next
all.
300,
And that's
500
not the
years?
point I'm making.
Yeah.
It's just the point I'm making is, I think we go back to it. I'm like, yeah, they're wrong, and
We both agree they're wrong.
right. And it's just, but at like when you're going back to like, because you said a couple things I want to go back and unpack. The fact that you said like, oh, they're out there, so now you know.
Right.
They're dangerous or a threat to you. I'm like, yeah, sure. And they're colorful, poisonous butterflies. Don't fuck with them. Don't eat with them. They're peacocking to let you know they're dangerous. Sure.
Yeah.
You can take that and be like, oh, thank God for that, so I know to stay away from the crazies. I'm like, sure, that's fine. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, they are also a hindrance on if the construction of society is, all made. I'm like, they're a hindrance on that. They are a cancer to a healthy society. Where I'm like, that fucking sucks. And I'm like, okay, because they can believe what they want and they can believe they're right. And
So what do you do about that?
what do you do with cancer?
Man, dude, this is something that I see as an ideology.
Right.
I mean, okay. There's so many different directions I can go.
And here's
I'm
the
gonna
thing.
sta-
I think you went with you cut cancer out and kill it immediately. I'm like, well, you treat it. You treat the problem.
How do you treat it, Lou?
How do you treat white supremacy?
No, how do you treat cancer? How do you treat cancer? Tell me the person who gave cancer love and it healed itself.
No, that's not what I'm talking about at all. You cut it out and murder it.
Yeah,
But I'm
exactly.
just saying-
Don't try to get out of that.
Yeah, here's the thing. Just hear me out. Hear me out. I don't know if this ever.
you think you're up there going to kill cancer.
I don't know if this has
You
ever been
treat
done
it.
before. I don't know if this has ever been done before, right? But you find these hateful groups, right? And you get them all together. Maybe put them in a camp. I don't know. Hear me out. Hear me out. You find these, and these hateful groups are probably all going to be like pretty easy to find. They're probably all going to look pretty similar.
Yeah.
And you just you concentrate them together.
I like this.
Right. And then once you get them there, you just put them to work and you re-educate
I was
them.
about to say, no. I like the work thing. Let's make them make railroads or something like that. Let's make them like, that's a little bit.
Regardless, here's the thing. I don't care what we do. We're just not going to feed them enough.
Yes.
But
they'll slowly evaporate.
it's exactly, it'll work itself out, and then society will be great for everybody. But it's like, I see the cheekiness of it, because when you went back to saying like they're right from their perspective, I'm like, clearly that's everybody thinks they're right from that perspective. Even the fucking insane person on the street corner where you're like, well, that guy's fucking crazy. The problem is, and I don't want to get into the too much, like going to too much cosmic out there-isms.
Right.
But it's like, we all, as a society in the middle of the bell curve, can all look at the guy yelling at pigeons like, that guy's fucking crazy. Even if, from his perspective, his whatever it is fundamentally true from his understanding. I'm like, I don't know. Was it you that I was talking with about objective and subjective truths? And somebody said there's no objective truth.
Then that definitely was not me.
Right. Well, no. Here's the thing. And I did disagree because it was there's only subjective truths from our being, and then it was definitely somebody who was
There's an argument in solipsism that, like, at the end of the day, you truly don't know what is real and what isn't real.
Right,
but if you're going to live in that way, I would argue don't bother arguing with people unless you're doing it for fun.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of, because I think most of that can slip into nihilism, and this is my own philosophic hang up. I think a lot of the you don't know is a bad road to, if you keep going down there. I'm like, well, if you don't know, why do you care? And this is just me and my limited philosophic knowledge. But what keeps me in line from going like, you don't care, I go back to, I know, I think therefore I am. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't know if I'm a computer or not. And I will tie this back into where we're going. Then stoicism, to keep my shit in line, where I'm like, okay, I can't affect what's affecting me. I can only affect my reaction. I keep going. But then the subjective versus objective truths, and we're going back to that, is the person I was talking to said there's no objective truth. And I disagreed to the point where they were like, the only objective truth could be a God or a first maker. I'm like, okay, sure, maybe. But I'm also like, no, man, there's just things within our realm right now where I'm like, no, there's just objective truths.
Right.
And that to me, I'm like, okay, getting there. Going back to cancer now, we just get them all in camps. No, okay. But I did want to go back to how you treat cancer and cutting these people out, and then how do you treat, let's be honest with it, like racism and actual like hate, superiority, stuff like that. I think it comes down to a factor of fear. Some would call a fear factor. This week on Fear Factor, could you imagine Joe Rogan? It's just 3 white supremacists on Fear Factor. It's like the first challenge is they just gotta
kiss a black guy?
They just gotta hang out in a black barber shop for as long as they can. Whichever one of you can hang out.
That's
here
a Dave
the
Chappelle
longest.
level sketch. That's a really good idea, dude.
Just a Joe Rogan Fear Factor where it's 3 white
actually pretty funny.
supremacists in a barber shop
good.
and one guy
like
5
that.
seconds and it looks like Carl's out immediately.
That's a good one.
The second one, they just have to eat a bunch of soul food. Fear Factor always
writes
has.
itself.
Yeah, it's cheap. It's low hanging.
We should probably make that.
We've got a lot of racially charged sketches. I don't think we can make anymore. But
Okay.
I'll call up Dave. You know what? He could make it happen. Him and Neil Brennan still.
Next time I pass through Ohio, I'll stop by his place.
Yeah.
Yo, Dave.
Yeah, but I want to put a convoluted bow on the point I'm trying to make here of going back to actual treatment of like hate groups and whatnot. And I don't know. I think you're always gonna have some people that are just like genetically like my tribe's different than yours. Fear, but
Or even just socially.
right. But how do you stop being afraid of something?
Well,
And I'm kind of like a leading question here, but I do want your take.
it's
I do
probably
want your
rhetorical.
take. Yeah.
Well, I would argue first of all that if you're saying how do you as a person stop being afraid of something?
Royal you, yeah.
Well, that's on you to overcome that fear.
Right. But I would say, okay, now when it was rhetorical, my point being is I think education on whatever you're scared of. So if you're fearful of something and you
Sure.
learn more about it, don't you take away a little bit of the fear?
Yeah, and if you experience it too,
Right.
you take a little bit away with
Right.
fear. Having
Right.
met racists and people
Right.
who hate Jews, I'm just like, oh, you guys are just silly.
Right. But then even going back
You're
to
kind of all right. You guys are kind of funny.
what's that, racist?
The people who hate Jews are funny sometimes.
Well, it's fucking. But when you sit down and talk to them, and if they know you're Jewish, what's the book like? Clan Member for a Day? Have you ever read that?
No, I did not read that. I'll read it though.
It's pretty ridiculous.
Sounds like a great Netflix series.
Yeah, it's incredible. They actually just beat him up and kill him at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's clan member for a day, and a whole bunch of examples where it's like, you know, people that would be hated by white supremacist group, just seeking out these groups and actually just talking to them to a point where after enough time and exposure to somebody they think they hate, they're like, oh shit, and it always ends in the. Well, not always. Sometimes hate wins out the day. But most of the time, it's, oh, we're not so different, you and I. And my ideology of hating you for these things is silly.
Right. Yeah, I agree. But that's on both sides.
For sure.
Like that's why I once again implore that I would rather have races be open to talk about it with me, so that way we can work through those conversations and disprove both of our false beliefs to understand each other. But to bring this even further around, and there is a little more I would like to say about it, but I know we get distracted.
Yeah.
To bring this further around, we've talked about this racial issue. Suppose this racial issue in America, which I guess exists, right?
Yeah.
How big is a question. Well, it may exist, but how big is the question? And we've lost complete sight of talking about the establishment and the way that it takes advantage of all of its people. And I would posit that's exactly what they want.
What's that?
They want us talking about whether or not white supremacists should be allowed to get together in Charlottesville and have basically a rally to say we still think blacks suck. Rather than us talking about stimulus bills, financial policy, bank bailouts, wars out inside of other countries, alliances with other countries that are committing actual genocide.
Oh, you talking about China and the Uyghurs?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll bring that up every time.
My point, and exactly, but my point is like that's some real shit, and it's not. And if you truly are saying you're coming from a place of love and compassion and trying to acknowledge your own privilege, realize that you're in one of the most privileged countries in the world, and that part of that privilege is going to the cost of a lot of other people's sovereignty outside of this country.
Right.
And that
are you saying be grateful?
Gratitude is very important. I totally agree.
Right.
But at the same time, I just think that like I said, I fail like someone who just kind of insults you and you think it's because it's of your race or your gender is like that's more of a you problem. If you are genuinely on the streets feeling unsafe because every day you're attacked by somebody, who like says go back to where you came from, that is a problem. And I would like to see and show me those locations and show me and let's look at those areas. But I just don't see I just think the more we attack people over what pronoun they use or what jokes they make, the less we're focusing on actual societal structure and more so just being like, I just want to be the good guy. I just want to know that I'm right.
I want to stop and clarify something real quick. When you said attacking people over what pronoun they use,
yes,
I feel like you were coming of the camp. Explain to me exactly what you meant.
Either
there.
way, it can go.
Okay.
Either way,
okay.
If both being somebody who
doesn't
who
go
says,
about
who
it
says
or
I go by
versus
she,
do.
they.
Yeah.
Like I should be allowed to criticize you as an opinion, but if I'm like giving you shit or even not hiring you,
Right.
that's just as bad as someone who's not going to hire somebody who won't use pronouns.
Gotcha.
Like, I don't
All
care.
right. Yeah, because at first there I was like, I almost felt like you were coming from the ilk of being like people that don't use it being
Everything.
attacked.
That's my point. So I'm talking about like the whole entire conversation.
Right.
If you want to go by she, they, and you're born a
So-
dude and present that way, that's your choice.
Sure,
I really
sure.
have no problem with it. I can also be like, I don't like it, but as me saying like you deserve to die, that's like what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, yeah, go ahead.
So I just want to help.
Can you
on the
put the
producer.
camera on?
Yeah,
you?
producer cam.
I just want to chime in for a second. You guys are making a lot of points.
I love you, Zach.
Some of them good.
We made a few.
But I just want to chime in about like what Ericson was just saying and what you guys have been talking about with like Antifa and the establishment and stuff. And it's like it seems like the media is
On their side.
is pushing everybody
eyebrows.
to kind of like they're encouraging this, but like that type of behavior.
I
And
agree.
We're not doing normal racism anymore. What we're doing now is we're doing advanced discrimination.
Yes.
And so like now before back in the good old days, it was you're black, get out of my store. But now people can say whatever they want, and it's just a whole bunch of like, well, my side believes me because I called this person out, and so you just be like,
Hang on. Unpack that more.
okay, yeah, I plan on it. So basically, like,
But no, specifically, they can say whatever they want.
so what I'm saying is that like if I could theoretically on Twitter tweet doxing somebody, calling them a fascist, and the right audience sees that, they will not look into it, right? And so it's like we're leading into like this world of a lot of the stuff that people are accusing people of doing or their behavior is not something you can immediately see on site, like gender fluidity and like fascism and all this shit. It's like you could fucking call me gender fluid and a fascist today, and there's no person without having a conversation with me that could actually prove that correct.
Right.
And so that idea of like people being like, you can't work here because you're non-binary and we don't allow that is like, because they could just say that because they don't want to hire you because they think you're non-binary. There's no like, it's not.
That's
like,
actually discrimination if they say that.
no, exactly, it is. But I'm saying like, I'm using the business thing because that is a thing where it's like people wouldn't hire black people. I'm saying we've gone into this advanced thing where you have the things people are discriminating and being, charged over they aren't things that are immediately visually striking, like skin color.
Right.
And so it's a lot more finicky and difficult. And so it just becomes a whole bunch of he said, she said. And that's one of the issues with like fascists now or Nazis now and Antifa now is that like you could be like, oh, this guy's a fascist because this, or I'm Antifa and it's like this guy's a fascist. We need to stop his rally. And it's like they could just say that because they don't want that guy in office.
Exactly.
There's no like.
Well, you're talking about lying for political.
Well, I'm just saying it's
gain.
easier than ever to say
Because there's so many
that
labels
this
now that
fits
we
my
have.
narrative, so now we're going to push this.
Right. And do you guys not? I wanted to tie this back into the hilarious point I was making is like back when it was white supremacy, you could tell because you're like, oh, it's a white dude with a fucking swastika.
Yeah.
You know, whereas now I'm like,
Well, I guess
you don't know who's a hateful. Well, you still have white dudes with swastikas, but I'm also saying there's hateful son of a bitches all over.
I still don't. It still sounds like your argument is like I miss the good old days where we just were racist for the color of their skin.
No, I'm just saying it's. Like, I'm kind of with Zach here, where I'm like, it's progressed to a point where. There are different radical ideologies that hilariously now are you can't just tell due to a race.
Sure, but I don't even care if you can't tell due to race. I just think that you have too much power, and that power is being funded.
What kind of power?
No, all types of power. I know.
Yeah.
Social power,
yeah,
though,
social
because like trans rights activists have a certain amount of power. Non-binary, like all these groups, Antifa. Black Lives Matters, Proud Boys, I guess, like whatever other groups. I'm trying to think of the white supremacy groups.
I like how you you said the other two with conviction, and then you're like Proud Boys, I guess, and like trying to shake that off.
Even like, is that even still real? Like, I don't hear about them anymore.
Come on now,
that's I don't hear about them.
This is why I think we get questions where we're like, is he alt right?
No one
because you say with conviction, and they're like, are Proud Boys even real? I don't know. I haven't looked into it. I'm ignorant about them. Yeah.
What's the alt right? Like alt right, I guess. Right. That's the group, the alt right. Like either way, and
see that's a blanket statement though.
So that's why I didn't want to say that. But Proud Boys, I don't feel like that's as big a group as Antifa. Like,
I would argue. I don't know. That's anecdotal.
See,
I would say so. They got chapters all over. The fucking
I guess they're just not in the streets as often.
Anyway,
so
I don't know about that, but
I hear a lot more. I see a lot more Antifa in the streets than Proud Boys. I see Antifa in the streets every day. I don't see Proud Boys running around.
Okay, there's all right. This is one of those things where I'm like, post show, I can send you some stuff. There's Proud Boys running around.
Stuff.
Yeah, you gonna send me some stuff? I'll send you some stuff.
I can't wait.
We'll send you some stuff.
My point is that like. These people, and by these people I mean just radicals, people who are extremists, right?
Yeah.
I would like to live in a society where those people are harmless, where they aren't given power, where the media does not support one or the other, or the governors or the governments does not fund or allow one or the other to have more privilege or more rights than the other one.
But your charismatic, crazy leaders. They live off that cult-like ideology,
and this goes back to my
and everybody
problem
else
with
falls
the
in line.
establishment. Yeah. And I really do believe this. I believe that at the end of the day, both Republican and Democrats in our government, they're working together. They're playing together. They argue, like AOC yells at Ted Cruz, and Ted Cruz like, makes comments about Nancy Pelosi. But at the end of the day, I really do feel like they all sit down and go, like, yeah, I mean, they're just trying to like win the game. It's like Kamala Harris said when they were asking about, like, hey, like you're vice president to Joe Biden, but how do you rectify that against all the things you said about him during the debate? And she goes, honey, I was just playing the game.
Yeah, that's politics,
like,
baby.
Right, but it's just like okay, so we're all just cosplaying Game of Thrones now. We're all just gonna LARP,
dude.
Like,
it was Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones,
but
that's always been fucking politics.
And I guess I feel like we should. The argument that I think almost everyone makes, every group is trying to say we're not trying to play politics anymore. Every radical group is almost arguing like we're trying to change the world and stop playing politics. These are real people. These are real people out there getting hurt from the political games you play. And the politics now have found a way that we can take that story.
Yeah.
And basically co-opt it to make you feel like you're fighting against the system when you're not.
Right. I want to. This is a good segue point into maybe the main issue we were supposed to get on.
This is the final thing I want to say. Like, and I was trying to avoid this one because you like to try to find anything to pick at me with, but whatever.
Isn't that what we do?
Black Lives Matters, right?
Is
endorsed by almost every.
Look around.
There's so many. How many corporations have endorsed Black Lives Matter? Like dozens upon dozens.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like when you see them branding ads. So you're like, cheese, it's and Nike.
Right. I saw a commercial from a financial institution just saying like, yeah, white people are guilty. Like black people like have had it hard, and we as white people have to do better. Like. When that many of corporations are on the side of the supposed resistance, what is it really the resistance anymore? Why do are we like do we not question that maybe this movement is in some way being leveraged in a way?
I for sure it's being monetized,
right?
I mean,
is it really a small movement, or is it really just kind of like the main movement? Is it like the
BLM?
BLM.
I think it started off. If you look at the fundamental, and not because I went to a BLM rally in Lansing because I was like, you know what, I can get down with the cause of like, hey man, black people in this country.
Yeah.
Like, I my personal opinion, got it pretty rough. It's still not great.
I mean, they had a terrible start.
It's been rough since the get-go, you know? It was a rough voyage.
I'm only angry that the camera wasn't on me when I said
Yeah,
that.
no,
Apparently, it really made Zach crack up.
Yeah, I was going to say the other way around. I'm like, oh, boy. But no, so I went to a Black Lives Matter rally because I'm like, in my mind, when it first started, I don't want to get into the whole, so I'm just going to say my piece and move on. The point I got was, we're not being treated equally. Our lives matter as much as anybody else's. And then it got skewed into so many different things, and ideologies picked sides between Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter. And then when I went to this rally, I was like, all right, like, I'm just here because, you know, I want to support a group that thinks they're not being treated equally. Right. And then when we got there and there was like communism talks and like talks where I'm like, whoa, this is so beyond what I thought I was getting into here. Like, I just want a disenfranchised racial group in this country to feel as welcome and equal here as anybody else. And I'm like, I can get down with that all the live long day. Right. But when I was there and then there was just a neo fucking communist talking, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is not what that original agenda was. Right. This is mutated into something that I'm unsure of. Right. But my point being is, like, when you look at the endorsement of BLM and stuff like that, I think it's a lot of businesses clearly trying to capitalize on it. And this is where 100%. I wanted to segue into the money and, you know, the politics of, like, are we just playing Game of Thrones, and Kamala Harris being like, I was just playing the game, baby. And then the people that want to lead this country or be in charge, you know, crazy fucking narcissists that they are, maybe more than likely. I think you have to have some kind of crazy quality to you to actually want to be the president. Yeah.
Or just in our current one's case, senile.
Right. And you see, it's the way you say and look. It's the little subtleties of your body language where I'm like, yeah,
sure, call me Republican. I don't really care. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I'm a human being and an American. Apparently, I don't even consider myself that sometimes.
Can we get the Hollywood Hulk Hogan walkout sign? I'm a real American. But no,
that's the thing. I'm not really worried if you think I'm Republican.
No, I'm worried that you're racist. I'm not worried that you're Republican.
I'm no more than your average person.
Okay, fair enough.
No more than your average Jew. Let's put it that way.
Oh, well. Don't me start. Did you guys know Ericson's Jewish? We gotta have a horn for that. Right. It's just speaking of racism, we'll have a Jew horn for you and be like, or is it a harp? Okay, here's something
that we carry. What are you talking about?
The Jew's harp. You've never heard that?
I remember the Jew horns. I don't remember the Jew harp.
There's a Jew horn. I was joking.
The people in Florida used to think we had horns.
What?
Someone told me a story. I swear to God, it was apocryphal because it just sounds so bizarre. But then again, people do things. I met a Jew who said, like, I lived in Florida one time, and I met a guy, and I told him I was Jewish, and he said, what happened to your horns? And he said it, and he meant it.
Oh, he meant these kind of horns. I was talking about
the horn
instrument. Yeah.
We do have those, actually. I forget what they're called.
Okay, well, that's why I brought up Jew's harp, which is a jaw harp. But it's, okay, bad jokes all around, and terrible racist jokes on my side, or racy jokes. But kind of a twofold point, because we're getting close to the 11th hour here, and we didn't even get into the money and the division side. We just kind of talked about the two sides.
Though, is that, like, you know, we're working.
We could do a two-parter.
We can do it next week. We can talk more about this. I mean, there's definitely some more stuff I want to talk about involving racism and hate. But, like, when it comes to, like, the establishment, the only point I'm trying to make is that, like, we act like you have to, like, Black Lives Matter. It's like they clearly do. Like, they clearly do on a large scale.
Yeah.
Like, they might not matter enough to police. That's arguable. But I would even argue they don't matter. They only matter to our political system in a way that they can be manipulated, is my argument. I
would say both. You can just say both.
In fact, I would argue the entire, like, pain and misfortune of black people in this country has come from a political desire to take advantage of them from our country.
Right.
First, we brought them in as slaves. Then we finally made them people, probably to some sort of benefit.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
We made them people.
I'm talking the perspective of our country.
I'm giggling at the.
We thought they were. We thought they weren't. They were people worth. They were
property
objects.
first.
They're property.
Then,
now they're people. Now, but only 3/4 of people. Now we made them whole people. But even when they were whole people, we found ways to still kind of We've always found ways
Jim
to
Crow
profit off
laws
of it. And although a lot of the story for people in the South might be because of their skin color, what I see is a group of people who found another group of people they could marginalize and take advantage of. And that's kind of what a lot of countries and societies have done for a long time. And they continue to do. And to put for our own government to put the focus on ourselves. You as a person need to go to black businesses and support them. You as a person need to support Black Lives Matter. You as a person need to start renouncing your racism and
There's
taking on
heat
your guilt.
in what you're saying
because and it goes both ways. I'm not just talking about like we do it to like other races as well, but it's just like you're basically saying we're doing everything we can to fix racism. The people are just racist. It's like, okay, there's policies you can put into place to make sure that we're not that we as a country are not racist. Yeah. There are things, if you really are worried about how the cops are killing black people at a larger rate than white people, then let's work on reforming the police system. Yeah. Let's actually start doing these things. Yeah. Stop making these hand-waving gestures that put the onus on its people to find the racists, find the bad people, and let's get them off Twitter. Let's get them out of their jobs. Let's make sure they can't get bail. Let's make sure that they basically are second-rate. Let's create a whole new class of second-rate citizens that want to treat these people like second-rate citizens, so that way we'll know we're equal. Yeah. It's like, dude, do your job.
For a moment there, I saw you as Charlie Day from Always Sunny with the yarn everywhere. Where I'm like, okay, hold on now.
But I mean, that's what. I'm not gonna lie. A little bit of this is that, but that's my point. Is that and it all comes back down to money because Kamala Harris is living very well.
Here's the thing. We might have to fucking do a two-parter on this one because we did not get into the money of it all.
Let's go into chat then.
Well, hang on. I do want to do one last kind of like summary point that you were.
What's summary mean?
Sumerical.
What's that mean?
It's my way of saying summary there, but
okay.
Summarize, sumerical. Because you did bring up like a lot of things that I think. Going back to actually being centrists, and then like, I like how you brought up the perspective, like, correct from your perspective. All these things are like very important issues to bring up whenever you get into a discussion or an argument or a disagreement, right? Impasses. But it's like going back to the labeling of all these things, and then within that, like bringing up Black Lives Matter. Like at some point, you were talking about how like they do matter, and they matter. They should matter as much as anybody else's lives in this country. I honest to goodness believe that's how that movement started, and then in a weird way. No or yes?
I mean, the way I heard about it, it started because of they were killing. The police were constantly killing black people.
Right.
That's what I thought.
Right.
Like the Black Lives Matter. Like you can't stop just ignoring when a police officer kills a black person.
Right. That's exactly it. But I feel like it was somehow then taken as an argumentative point or a threat, where like somebody was like, oh, it triggered them to the point where, right. It was like politicized masks. to the point where people felt they had to argue a different point. It seems so absurd to me that people started saying all lives matter after Black Lives Matter, because I'm like, well, there's clearly two ways of saying the same fucking thing. Yeah. Where it's like Black Lives Matter, of course, because at the moment, from the perspective that I saw, and I think why it started, is it seemed like they're not mattering as much as all lives. Right. And that's it. Right. But then, yeah, kind of going back to what you were saying, like, then the politicalization of it all, right? And then on top of that, monetizing it. Like, yeah, we got to get into that next week, because it's like that.
Sure.
The division of the people, and then what's up, Zach?
I just real quick. Okay.
Move to your camera to you. Move the camera to you, buddy.
Yeah, I think that they should have. I think they should have called the move.
Here we go.
Don't tip his bit.
I think they should have called the movement Black Lives Too, like TOO, because I would get down so quick with BLT, and I also wouldn't be confused at all. I wouldn't. It would be Black Lives as well. Yeah. Right out of the rip. But you say that Black Lives Matter, you're immediately gonna.
It also would have been a great. It would also been a great jumping off point from the Me Too movement. It would have felt like the Me, like you know what I mean.
Black Lives
already,
Me Too.
Yes, Me Too. Me Too. Well, Black Lives too.
Hey Zach, you should take that and just see if you can do a rebrand. Hey, we've got the fixer Zachary Bakar here. The problem is, and the reason people are so adverse to what you're saying is it's how you're saying it.
Like how you start talking like Christopher Walken.
right.
That and also
Walken?
just a quick step back. I feel like you guys know this, but you guys didn't bring it up. Is one of the main reasons why you like the neo-communists talking at the Black Lives Matter movement and like rally and all that stuff is just because obviously people are trying to recruit and they're like, oh, this is a thing with kind of similar people that I could probably get, and they're confused right now and they want to latch on to stuff that they think is right. So here I'm going to go speak at this and get more people on my communist stuff because the extremists on the left, they want everyone to be communists, and the extremists on the right want everyone to be
right. Zach, you brought up a
neo-Nazis.
point that I've been thinking about all conversation that I didn't want to bring up is disenfranchised people looking for purpose, but that's always something I'm worried about whenever I see, you know, groups of people with any strong ideology. I'm like, oh, you're just looking for purpose in life. But that is a different podcast.
So
as
what
well.
we got here on the
get
chat.
into it.
We got Sean Morris is a partisan, a good term. It's clearly they've been talking a lot as we've been talking with each other, which is kind of cool, honestly. Gavin Witter, turns out Antifa has a political agenda beyond not liking extreme right-wing politics. That's right.
I got
Elena Banfield thinks things should be so clear, but I don't know what. Important to remember, legality is not a guide to morality. Yeah, but we try to build our legal system around a morality, I would imagine. Like, you're trying to make sure the legal system is moral and just and ethical.
The traditional cure for cancer involves slowly poisoning a patient in the hope that cancer dies faster than the patient
truly
can't endorse
Holocaust-like maneuvers.
I believe I made the bit.
No,
okay.
yeah, you did a great job.
I was
Very
like,
well done.
I not only recognized it immediately, but I was like, I'm wrong. I'm going to lean into that.
Everybody's fighting for something, says Gavin Witter. Make the world safe for democracy, Wilson. Gavin Witter, be careful not to become the thing you hate. I agree. The traditional cure for cancer involves...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
After you're reading
Pick out your highlights here, baby. You're
highlights?
mumbling through all of them.
Okay, I don't see how... I thought we were going to get through all of them. Oh, the lines of white supremacy seems like a flexible definition these days. Erickson got the alt-right algorithm. Got that alt... I don't know what that means, but I like it.
No, that was
in
regards to when you went Black Lives Matter and another one, and they're like, Proud Boys, I guess. Like, you fucking smarmied off Proud Boys. Like, I guess if they're still a thing, I'm like, yeah.
That's the thing. Like,
let me see your YouTube homepage.
It's just like you know what it is. It's like when you show me leftist groups that are like, you know, really like rampant. Like there's like it's always the same group. But whenever it's a right wing group, it's always like a different group. Like the guys who were doing the Tiki Torch guys. They weren't Proud Boys, right? They were some other group.
There were some Proud Boys there.
But like, what were they meeting under? What flag?
White supremacy.
So it's just white supremacy.
The way, okay, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Where I'm like, yeah, clearly this is why people like.
But I don't care. I should be able to say it however I want to say.
When you say I don't care, sociopathic tendencies come out. I don't care what you think or what they think. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
No,
man.
I should be able to be my. At the end of the day, I shouldn't have to always be talking.
Yeah, I just want to be myself.
Yeah, is that a
problem? At the end of the day, I just want to be me. No, I 100% agree. Everybody should just be themselves and feel comfortable.
I agree too.
Yeah,
and we don't hurt each other or impede each other for being so.
Let Erickson be racist.
He's
just being himself.
Yeah, he's not hurting anybody. He's just being racist.
Look, I am a
no.
I'm getting this out because I thought about this recently, so it must have came to my mind for a reason. Look, I am a Jewish
racist
person. I'm a Jewish person. No, I'm Jewish, and my whole life I've been taught that there's a group of people that hate me. But what I've learned through society is that in our country, you are not allowed to hate Jewish people. You're just not allowed.
No, I mean, you made points earlier. People do.
People do, but if they said that out loud, we would, as a country.
I'm gonna push back like you do. No, you can hate Jewish people in this country.
You think that if someone
I don't think it. I'm just saying in this country you can't.
But you're saying that someone says it. They're not going to be ostracized by the country, lose their job, and all that stuff.
I think they might even hold a rally in Charleston about it.
In Charleston, but overall, the whole country, you think is going to be like cool with that?
I mean, parts of it, yeah. They're going to think they're right.
Small parts of it. The
Really?
majority of this country, you think, is going to be like okay with someone saying anti-Semitic stuff.
I don't know.
Basically saying I don't like Jews.
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. Well, from
I'm
my
just trying to be
experience,
you right
that's
now because
fine.
it's
Well,
hilarious.
I mean,
It's tough being you. I'll say this much.
Well, yeah, because I actually have like a point. But either way, what
Do
I'm saying
you?
is, yeah. Throughout this country, look, if you want to prove to me that people are okay, like overall with anti-Semitic rhetoric, explain to me why Roseanne lost her job. Well, actually, she said something else about Planet of the Apes. But
Yeah, it's like I can go ahead and do that for you.
It wasn't a
She
Nazi
took
cookies.
drugs, opened up the inner monologue.
But people have
Yeah.
said anti-Semitic stuff and gotten crucified for it. Ironically,
Yeah.
so
I think he was actually
guess
pretty
that is
pro-Semite.
that is
yeah.
kind of our thing. My point is, I grew up in a world where I realized that like you can't say something, and what I realized was I hated it because I was like, I can never know if someone truly likes me for me, or if they're just saying it because they don't want to come off as anti-Jewish or anti-Semitic. And I realized I'd rather have a world where people can openly hate
You're a
Jewish
pretty
people.
girl at the bar. I don't know if people like me for
Sure.
me,
Yeah.
or if it's just because.
Sure, yeah, sure.
Yes. There it is, Ericson.
You
I
should
didn't
be
know you
allowed
were
to
a
hate
wrestler.
someone. At the end of the day, if we lived in a completely rational and just society, you should be allowed to hate somebody
Yeah.
for their religion, their race, their creed, and whatnot. You just wouldn't be allowed to act on it, to hurt them, to violently assault them, to try to make them lose their job, to try to hold them back. I feel like that's how it should be. You're looking at me with that smug face, but do you disagree with what I'm saying?
All
Do you
right.
disagree with
Smug.
like I'm not playing devil's advocate here if you're wondering.
No,
Like,
man.
I truly believe that you should be allowed to hate who you want.
No,
to
it's
hate.
just the point you made. I'm like, yeah, quit sucking the First Amendment's dick then.
What do you mean?
Everything you just said is like, yeah, man, it's been a fundamental thing all the time where like people can openly say and do what they want as long as they're not actively hurting people or threatening people to get hurt.
Well, then a bunch of white guys hang out in Charlottesville saying we think black people
and
are
people
like your
fucking
race.
died because of that, and they made threats.
But also those I mean, in Charlottesville, like people started getting in fights with each other over
Yeah.
what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the thing.
If you want to get into the nitty gritty of what the fuck happened in Charlottesville, is a bunch of dudes that didn't have, and we'll go legally, didn't have the permits they fucking needed to spew what they wanted, and because of that,
you need
fights
permits to
happen.
spew what we want to spew.
Yeah, for certain First Amendment expressions in
Crazy.
public places where
Crazy.
threats of violence could happen, yeah, you got to get a permit.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
You can't yell
Fair enough.
bombing a theater, shit
Fair
like
enough.
that.
Fair enough.
Right? There are limitations
Yeah.
to the First Amendment.
Sure.
And those limitations were broken.
Got it.
People died because of it.
Right.
And that's where I'm like, yeah, you can say,
Right.
do what you want as long as it doesn't cause a threat or a death.
100%.
Right, that's why I'm agreeing with what you just said.
Violence, you
And the
absolutely
reason
are
I'm
responsible
breaking
for it.
down from the smug fucking face you just told me
Yeah.
is because now you've got it.
No, I'm,
Yeah,
okay,
there's a little
I'm
bit,
excited.
there's
I'm
that
excited.
side.
I'm excited.
But now I'm like, yeah, I get what you're saying. The whole point you made, the grandiose point,
Yeah.
is in a society believing what you want, saying what you want, fine with that because you can, because you're free.
Right.
But as soon as that crosses a threshold where you
Totally.
threaten and then hurt and kill other people, you've gone too fucking far.
Right.
And
Totally
that's
agree.
happened a lot lately.
It happens with everybody though.
But you're saying both sides. But the example, Charlottesville, anyways, the example of Charlottesville, because that's the one we're on right now,
Right.
that happened. And if you want to go literally because of the permits and the people that were there because of it,
I have no problem
Right.
with you admonishing and being sick and annoyed by the violence that occurred there.
Right.
Where the conversation started was you were surprised by the audacity and the brazenness of which the fact that they showed up.
Absolutely was.
And that to me is like, well, that's just, at the end of the day, people have their beliefs. They're going to do what they believe in, and I think it's totally fine. I'd rather know
Sure.
that someone doesn't like Jews and just have to be like, okay, you don't like Jews? That's stupid to me.
Right.
That's fine. As long as I know you're not going to
Right.
hurt me for it, I'm not going to walk into a Nazi
But
facility.
here's where I say the line in the sand is, right?
Yeah.
Before they were hidden, right?
Yeah.
Now they're emboldened to the point where they're not hidden. And then to the point where you're emboldened to the point where you're not hidden. I'm like,
Right.
at some point, then it goes, the laws start being broken, and then it becomes an actual threat. And then it's a problem where you no longer are dealing with, oh, they just think that. Oh, they're just fucking doing it. If you don't nip it in the bud in that threshold of think, thoughts, actions, and speech, and then actions
Where do you
take
start nipping?
place.
Where do you start nipping in the butt? I
What-
say you start
what-
nipping in the butt at physical actions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it seems like as a country we want to nip it in the butt at thought. That seems to be the overall.
Not
attitude.
in that case there. No.
In that case, no, I'm not talking about that case. I'm talking
people
about
didn't
overall
want
as a
them there
culture.
for
I think
that.
Overall as a culture, we seem that we were trying to nip it in the butt in thought.
At thought,
Yes.
because it seems like it's unhealthy thought.
Don't get me wrong.
Mainly-
I'm not supporting us teaching kids like, hey,
no,
just so you know,
I get
some
it.
people
You're not
believe whites
trying
are
to
better than
go
blacks.
1984 Orwellian thought process. I get it. But the reason you want to, it comes off as people want to nip it at thought is because you want to get it at the root cause. That whenever you want to stop something that you think is bad, it's like, oh, okay. Do we mow the lawn and just keep cutting the tops of the weeds off? It's like probably that's what you should do, but people want to pull the weeds. And here's the thing. It's like I don't know, man. It's like if you're trying to pull the weeds, you're gonna kill stuff along the way. Now, that's a bad metaphor there. My point being is,
I think I understand the feeling of what you're saying.
My point being is, and specifically for the Charlottesville and other instances, I'll go to the point where I'm like, okay, the thought stoppage there was when people said, "Don't fucking come here." People were like, "Don't fucking come here. We don't want you here." That was them trying to stop it at the thought. Right? Then the physical stop is, all right, you're going to have too many people who you don't have the permits to have the literal First Amendment rally you want. We're not saying you can't, but it's like you got too many people here. This is going to be actually dangerous.
Right.
Now it's a city going like, we don't have the police force for it. We don't have the manpower for this. This is now, you like, sure, you have your First Amendment right, but it's superseded by threat of violence and actual damage to other people. And then when it played out, yeah, people died because of it that day. And here's the thing.
Yeah, and that's that. And that was that's horrible.
Right. And here's the thing. I've the counterpoint being
still
as well.
That thing though.
What's up?
I just don't know why you would go to it. I just don't go.
Well,
to
right, but
rallies.
you try to separate yourself from your personal logic
exactly,
of not going there.
Exactly.
Like, dude, I think you and I both are like, no, avoid the situation from the get go.
Right.
But this is probably going to be a hang up point, but I hate that when people are like, well, it only happened because another side of people came out and then there was animosity between them. Like, yeah, of course, man.
Well, I would take that and would argue that still doesn't give the people who showed up
initially or the
initially piece, that doesn't give them the right to act in force. Like I say this with every protest, Black Lives Matters, Antifa, even like people who went for the Trump rallies. Like, if you are protesting, it's a peaceful protest. That means that if the other side gets violent, you do not become violent.
Yeah.
Like, you actually just accept the whole idea of protesting is I'm standing here to make a statement.
Right.
And I'm accepting the consequences for the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. So you're right. I don't think, the violence that happens, I guess that's why I hate most protests in general. Mm-hmm. They don't seem to actually be good faith or goodwill. They tend to like always be trying to create some sort of moment that they can either play victim or oppressor with. But yeah, I agree with most of what you said. The only thing that the reason why I started was you initially seemed like you had a problem with the gall of them showing up. But I'll
tell you this much. I personally did.
And if you were making an argument about the root, where it's just like some people want to rip out the root, and you're not. I get the kind of feeling that maybe you're not sure if like what the right answer is. I would agree that there is an argument to say get rid of the root of some things, especially right. We try to teach people not to kill one another because I feel like that's a good thing to teach people. I guess I want to live in a society where people have as much freedom and liberty as possible to think and feel the way they want to feel and speak the way they want to speak. I want us to try to maintain that. I want to live in a country where we're trying to maintain that.
Yeah.
I understand that it's dicey and hard because as human nature, we're emotional beings that get physical because we come from animals in nature. So it's not going to be the easiest ride, but I think we have to always remember where is the destination we're trying to get to. And when you say stuff like we have to control speech, we have to have compelled speech, we have to make sure that.
I didn't say that.
I'm talking about I'm talking about the establishment. I'm bringing this all back to the establishment.
Got you. Are we talking in royal talk right now?
Yeah, and I'm talking about the establishment.
Okay.
This is always what I'm talking about. I'm rarely ever talking about.
Right.
You.
Well, we got personal for a second there, so I'm like, let's take it back to royal.
Yeah. I'm asking a question, but like when it comes to like the overall establishment, the way that like our country's discourse is going, I don't agree with those things, but I also think that those things are all just kind of becoming conversational topics to distract us from real stuff like income inequality.
Right. God damn it, I wish we.
Well, this is a great setup now because we kind of got. Let's hope to God we got the race shit out of the way, the messy stuff that I do really believe all this conversation we just had is
it's a build-up.
Smoke screen.
It's a
smoke screen to stop us from talking about what's really going on. Because I have no problem saying I don't like racists, like the actual racists who believe that violence against another race is okay or marginalizing another race is okay. I'm not okay with oppressing anybody for any reason, especially things they can't control, but even their own views. That's something I'm very strongly about.
Right.
I'm a libertarian in that way. So when we talk again next time, we'll talk about basically how I think the government is trying to make us all radicalized and basically fight each other so we don't actually fight them.
I'll meet you there because you're always talking about the media's agenda, and I love that because you're like a goddamn mainstream media, lamestream media.
I think that gets lost in sometimes because I think it's like people think it's like the media is acting alone. I think they work with.
It's a pillar.
I think they work with the government.
You know what? I'll bring up some fun Orwellian 1984 points, and it's one of the pillars is definitely the media, and then working in tandem with the government, taught all this, teaching. Yeah, man. There's a reason there was crazy amounts of sales of 1984 in the last 4 years. But okay, so next week let's do. I'll be good on it as well. Of like, let's get into the actual.
I'll try to read up more stuff.
Well, yeah, and the capitalistic nature of money and power actually being the root cause of a lot of.
Right. I've got a friend who's very, very big on the whole issue and knows a lot more about it. So I'll talk to her.
It's funny, yeah, because we also Adam York chimed in. He's like, "Oh, good, I didn't miss the money and power talk." And it's like, yeah, dude. At this point, you and I entishly to make
stuff is online forever. You guys don't have to see it live. Right.
But it's like you and I just established the setup to the actual conversation now. And I'm like, all right, yeah, it takes us about an hour and a half to clear up enough of the space to be like, now we can talk about what we actually need.
It's good to be back in the studio, though.
Yeah, man.
You got anything you want to plug? I'm going to be on a show in literally about 30 minutes online. I don't know where it is.
Yeah, I'm about to go. No, you're good.
It works.
I'm going live on Twitch in like 30 minutes.
There you go.
So
that was my plug. I was plugging the show that I don't really know the specifics of because I'm a bad comic.
Fuck it. Just go live on your Instagram. It's at Ericson.
At Just Erickson. You can
Just
find
Erickson.
Erickson. You'll find all about my podcast.
Go
Just
live
Erickson,
there.
The podcast, which is pretty much this with a different person every fucking episode, or sometimes just myself and with no absolute.
Well, it's funny though because when we're actually on your podcast, I think I'd take on a different tone. I'm a little bit more like. I don't know. Well, let's do another episode of your podcast.
Whatever this serves you, I'm glad it serves you because I'm having fun.
Good point. Kind of. I feel like you and I are a little bit more cheeky on your podcast.
Well, I'm not. I don't know.
You know what? Listen to an episode. Pay to listen to Erickson's podcast.
And I think have to though. You can just go online.
No, I'm pretty sure I'm on a few behind the wall.
Yeah, he's got a few. He's got a few paywall.
Yeah, episodes. Paywall episodes. It's $69 and it's great.
Worth it though.
But okay. Anything else you want to plug though?
No, that's all I really got to plug right now.
Back in town. Hey, he's new in town. Back in town.
Yeah.
Everybody, we got to get Ericson White Castle while he's here. So
we'll do that too.
Yeah.
We'll do that after the government episode. When I'll eat White Castle live, and we'll see it. I'll give you a review.
It's gonna be cold and day old at that point.
Oh, really?
It's otherwise it's a drive to get it, and they're not open for breakfast.
We'll just do a breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'll take you to one, and we'll film it, and then we'll put it up later.
Dude.
But okay, yeah, guys, Lou the Surgeon on Twitch in 30 minutes, and then like and subscribe if you haven't.
Please do, guys. We're getting so close to 100.
Yeah, and if you guys, this is cliche YouTube talk, but if you guys actually do like what we're doing and you want to see it grow and help, easiest thing you can do, and it's free, is actually just share this. Yeah, I mean, I know it's ridiculous, and you might be like, oh, I don't know. Big ask. But if you like what we're doing.
I'm just trying to imagine the randos who will see me and be like, what?
Yeah, it'll be fun, right?
Look, I'll definitely, here's the thing. I don't like the accusations.
Dude, I said a lot of shit. I said so much dumb shit this episode.
But I'll always say this, because I just like to think that people know me, but I will say this, that you are right. The wrong people love me.
Yeah, I know. It's hilarious. Here's how
every show I do.
Here's how I know.
It's never the cute blue-haired mermaid girl. It's always the 6'2" overjacked Chad.
I always go anecdotally with you,
giving me a.
But I gotta go anecdotally with it. It's because I have to defend you to people who are cool, and people who suck are like, I like this guy too much. I'm like, God damn it!
You guys should say all that up top.
Oh, there.
That's a show, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thanks, guys. See ya.